Hello and welcome to the course Developing Soft Skills and Leadership through Indian Knowledge System. In this lecture, we shall be talking about models of leadership, particularly from the texts like Mahabharata and Ramayana. We know that Indian Knowledge System offers a very rich tapestry of leadership models that are both timeless and relevant to contemporary challenges. We have examples such as Lord Krishna, who inspires and motivates Arjun to overcome his doubts and fears, empowering him to fulfill his duties as a warrior. Krishna's teachings emphasize aligning personal values with a larger purpose, fostering ethical decision making and nurturing talents. We shall be talking about such leaderships as the leadership model of Lord Krishna, leadership model of Bhishma Pitama, leadership model of Yudhishthira and Lord Rama. So, let us quickly look at the definition of leadership. We have already deeply engaged in the concepts and discussion of leadership in the previous lectures, but here are some foreign definitions of leadership that they talk about. Leadership is a formal or informal, contextually rooted and goal influencing process that occurs between a leader and a follower, group of followers or institutions. Or leadership, as defined by Warren, is the capacity to translate vision into reality, or maybe leadership by Gary is the leadership as the process of influencing others to understand and agree about what needs to be done and how to do it, and the process of facilitating individual and collective effort to accomplish shared objectives. The problem with these definitions is that they are very materially rooted, materially grounded, right, and not in a position to reach to a larger universal audience, and could envision the collective growth of not only very confined team, but to reach to a very social and universal purpose. That precisely is the problem of what you call the definition of the Western understanding of modern leadership. Keith Grint also goes so far as to speculate that leadership cannot be defined, purposing that it is an essentially contested concept. Of course, we agree with the fact of Keith Grint that leadership may not be defined, or definition is very confining because it binds into a narrow understanding of a particular concept. So, we are not going to define, but we are going to look at the models of leadership in today's lecture. So, if you look at leadership, which is not just an authority but influence and inspiration, right. So, we have already in the previous lecture reflected a lot about that leadership should not be a very authoritative one, but should be based on certain kind of service to the people, right. Modern leadership in the Western world is also defined as team based and situational, but we at times agree and disagree also with this particular definition. But historically, if we look at, leadership was viewed as a set of mysterious qualities vested in great men or specific individuals based on their inherent merit or traits that precisely we are going to indulge upon, because in Indian knowledge system we have certain models of leadership which are based on certain qualities of great men, but these qualities are not very individual qualities. They have a very closely corresponding with the social values and ethics that we will be talking about. Modern concepts have also shifted towards different models where leadership is associated with being a team builder, possessing creative and strategic thinking skills, demonstrating honesty and integrity, and having the ability to motivate others to actions. While leadership was once strictly vested in permanent positions, it is now seen as a fluid role that an individual moves continuously in and out of depending on the circumstances. So far as we agree with the particular fact that let us not bind leadership into a very narrow definition of it, either in the point of from the perspective of modern leadership, understanding of modern leadership, or should not confine taking just a few points from Indian knowledge system and again confining into certain kind of definitions. Rather, we look at various models of leadership which is not limited to, and the understanding of leadership may not be limited to those models, but these models definitely give us certain kind of examples and framework to understand this concept of leadership rather. So, if we look at leadership model, how we define leadership model is that it is a way and a style of leading people. So, what we are going to borrow from when we are going to look at specific models of leadership is how these people have been inspiring and leading other people. This is precisely what are the strategies, what are the methods that they have adopted in leading other people, and how and how people look at their models even today, and how their models still are relevant. This is precisely what we are going to look at. So, leadership model, if we try to define, is a framework that outlines how a leader behaves, makes decisions and guides others. So, its leadership model is being considered for the purpose of this lecture as a framework that outlines how a leader behaves, makes decisions and guides others. It may also be understood as a structured approach that describes different leadership styles, traits and methods which are used to influence and manage people effectively. There are a number of models of leadership in modern times. Let us quickly look at for the purpose of this lecture, let us quickly skim through the various models or most common models of leadership in contemporary times. One is called transformational leadership model. That means how you are inspiring different people to transform themselves, to bring about a positive change and to innovate yourself. So, are you in a position, so we are going to look at this concept of transformational leadership in Indian knowledge system, particularly the example of Lord Krishna, who acts as a transformational leader, particularly inspiring the positional change, positional transformation of Arjun when he denies to participate in the war of Mahabharata, right, and how Lord Krishna inspires, motivates and empowers Arjun to transform from a very emotional being to that of a kind of a strategic leader. So, and the next concept we are going to look at the idea of servant leadership. We shall be focusing from this particular model through the model of Lord Rama, where he has been focusing on team needs, sacrifices self and lifts others. And the transactional leadership will also be demonstrated in this lecture through the model of Lord Krishna, because this is not only task focused, includes reward and penalty, but is also beneficial to both the parties who are involved in this transactional leadership. Then we have democratic leadership, which is when a leadership is demonstrated while you are taking a decision, and decision is not very unilateral, rather collaborative and participatory. It is a very democratic form of leadership where the opinions and perspectives of all participants are being considered, and there is a parity of participation in this democratic leadership that is being ensured by that particular leader. And we are also going to look at negative leadership models called autocratic leadership models, which you find in the models like Duryodhan and Ravana, because these people are the ones who control absolute control and very clear expectations from their teammates. Laissez-faire leadership also is a very delegative empowerment, and that is a little or no guidance, without any guidance, that is a laissez-faire leadership. And finally, ethical leadership model is the one which employs logic, respect and justice as guides. These are the different models of leadership. We shall demonstrate how these models can be looked into various leadership various leaders in Indian knowledge system, right. Let us quickly look at a few leadership models from Mahabharata. Here we are going to just place an overview of leadership models from Mahabharata, and then we shall demonstrate case by case each and every leadership model from Mahabharata in detail. So, for the purpose, if you look at today's world, most of the leaders are facing certain kind of ethical dilemmas. They are engaged in certain kind of conflicts or complex decision making challenges. But there is some guidance if you look at the text like Mahabharata, and if leaders are willing to take lessons from this text called Mahabharata, they would be in a position to address these problems like ethical dilemmas, conflicts and complex decision makings, because you find probably some kind of resolution existing in the text, particularly this particular text, which is very political in nature, at the same time it is social and ethical in the text called Mahabharata. It provides This text provides a very rich source of leadership lessons by presenting diverse leadership styles and their consequences. We have figures in Mahabharata, figures like Lord Krishna, who has been demonstrating transformational leadership through vision and guidance. We shall be talking in detail about Lord Krishna and how he demonstrates transformational leadership through vision and guidance. We shall also look at the concept of Bhishma, who has been representing servant leadership through duty and selflessness. And in contrast, you have Duryodhan's model of leadership, which highlights the danger of ego-driven and authoritarian leadership. It's a very example of authoritarian leadership. And finally, you have a model of Yudhishthira, who has been exemplifying ethical leadership model, which emphasizes the idea of truth, justice and moral responsibility. By examining these leadership models from the text Mahabharata, we see that it offers insights into effective leadership, decision making and the importance of values in guiding actions. So, we have a plethora of models emerging from this text called Mahabharata, which is transformational leadership, servant leadership, authoritarian and ethical leadership. Let us quickly discuss each and every model case by case. So, if we quickly analyze this leadership model in Mahabharata, that is the model of transformational leadership, which is being demonstrated by Lord Krishna, right. We know that a transformational leader is always the one who inspires and guides others towards the right path and encourages ethical thinking and wise decisions. So, if we look at this particular case, when Arjun was not willing to participate in the war of Mahabharata because he thinks that probably he is going to kill his own brothers in this particular war, and this does not seem to be just, right. And then Lord Krishna probably offers his inspiration and guidance to Arjun, saying that this is an ethical war. You are fighting against the people who are probably a kind of threat to the entire social order and social world, and therefore your war against these people becomes an ethical action, right. So, how you see that Lord Krishna is completely transforming this Arjun into a kind of the one who has been taking action, who has been performing action in this particular war, right. So, you see that from being an emotional being to a logical being to performing his karma, when Lord Krishna says that you should not be thinking about the consequences, you should not be thinking about the results of a particular war. As a warrior, your work is, your karma is to perform the karma, and that precisely you should do, right. So, what we see is that Lord Krishna seems to be quite visionary and has certain kind of strategies, and throughout the war of Mahabharata, you are in a position to witness the strategies adopted by Lord Krishna while guiding the entire Pandavas into the war of Mahabharata. At the same time, he is also in a position to have emotional intelligence. He could be in a position to sympathize with others. So, this model of leadership that emerges from Mahabharata, the model of Lord Krishna, which is a transformational leadership model, is the one who has been inspiring people towards ethical decision making and strategic thinking. This is precisely what we learned from Lord Krishna's transformational leadership model. So, in contemporary times, that completely should be taken by a leader, that how you are going to inspire and motivate and guide others to take certain kind of ethical decisions and strategic thinking. When we look at the second model from the text called Mahabharata, that is modeled by Bhishma Pitama, which is an example of servant leadership, and this is a kind of leadership model which always places duty and responsibility first above any kind of personal interests, and always remains loyal to his role and values, right. And I think there could not be a better model of understanding servant leadership than Bhishma Pitama, because his entire life is a kind of an embodiment of placing his duties and responsibilities first, and then his personal interests. Rather, his personal interests never appear throughout the text. We know that he never had got married, and he could not have any kind of personal choice. Rather, he has taken a vow not to practice his personal choices at all, rather to take care and be loyal to the throne and to the people of Hastinapur. Right. So, that is a very kind of model that emerges from his story, and his entire practice is the idea of selflessness that he practices, and commitment towards the throne and towards the people, and a very strong sense of duty that emerges from Bhishma Pitama. So, he is the one who exemplifies the idea of servant leadership, prioritizing duty and institutional values over any kind of personal gain. So, let us learn from this model from Bhishma Pitama, that how you are placing your ideals, your duty and your responsibility first, and then any kind of what you call personal gain. The third model that we find that emerges from Mahabharata is the model of Yudhishthira, who is an ethical leadership model. Right? We know that an ethical leader is the one who always follows truth, fairness, righteousness, and makes decision based on moral values. Right? And the kind of characteristics that emerge from such leadership model are the honesty, justice, integrity. And the best example that we can quote from Mahabharata, where the ethical leadership model is being demonstrated by Yudhishthira, is the game of dice. You know that in game of dice, Yudhishthira have lost everything, right? He was cheated, right? And he could have placed the blame of this entire failure that he has experienced on external factors, right? But he has not done that. Rather, he has taken the entire responsibility of losing everything in this game of dice on himself, and therefore it's a very ethical model that he has been presenting, right? Which is based on truth, fairness, acceptance, and righteousness, right? So this represents a kind of an ethical leadership, constantly upholding truth, fairness, and righteousness above any kind of personal interest. And we know that because of this particular reason, that he has always upheld the concepts of truth and fairness, that he has suffered, but his sufferings have never discouraged him to abandon his faith in truth, fairness, and righteousness. Now, we are going to look at another text. Probably we have escaped this model of what you call Duryodhan, who has been always authoritative, right? We shall come to him as to how towards the latter part of this discussion, as to how he has been engaged in very authoritative form of leadership, where he has not been taking counsel from his ministers, from his elders, and from his team. And that's probably the reason, one of the reasons as to why he has faced this defeat in the war of Mahabharata, despite having the biggest army, despite having the best of warriors, is because of his authoritative attitude, right? And one of the reasons as to why in Mahabharata Yudhishthira emerged as winners is because of the ethical leadership model, because of the support of strategists and model of inspiration like Lord Krishna. If we look at Ramayana, we closely analyze this text. There are a number of models emerge from this particular text called Ramayana. If you look at the modern times, we find that modern times are marked by challenges such as corruption and ethical dilemmas. The text is called Ramayana, which is an ancient Indian epic. All of us are aware about this text. It provides valuable guidance for moral and responsible leadership demonstrated by Lord Rama, which is showcasing multiple leadership models in action. The concept of Raj Dharma that we have already been talking about since the previous lecture, it refers to the duties and responsibilities of a ruler, right. These are best reflected in the character of Lord Rama. He is the one who has been portrayed as an ideal king who always follows truth, sacrifice and responsibility and justice. His model of leadership is always concerned with ethical decisions and servant leadership, prioritizing the welfare of the people over any kind of personal interests. And the entire life of Lord Rama is an embodiment of the welfare of the people of the state than any kind of personal interest. He has suffered himself, but he made sure that the entire people of the state and their welfares are being taken care of. So, if we look at this concept of ethical and servant leadership model from Ramayana, it provides valuable lessons about ethical and modern leadership because it presents a timeless ideas about good governance, honesty, selflessness, compassion and justice. Even today, we always refer to the best kingdom where people are being taken care of as Ram Rajya, probably where everyone would be happy and the interest of each and everyone in the society would be taken care of. That kind of kingdom is always imagined by. So, the kind of leadership insights that we borrow from the figure of Lord Ram is that how you are making every kind of attempt to make each and every person in a team in society stay happy and prosper. So, Lord Ram, who is known as Maryada Purushottam, that means he is an icon of truth, of profound quality, the perfect son, the perfect spouse and more than all the perfect ruler, never ever deviating from his path of truth in any critical conditions and circumstances. This is precisely what is being embodied by Lord Ram in the concept called Maryada Purushottam. Lord Ram presents a model of ethical leadership based on the idea of fairness, justice and respect for others. Right? He always follows dharma in all his decisions, treats everyone equally, citizens, allies and even enemies. He has immense respect for everyone. Let us quickly look at certain examples and certain encounters. Look at Ram's encounter with Sabari or Ram's encounter with Kevat, right. He treats them as allies and citizens with all with respect, right. And even if you look at the case of his enemies, he also treats enemies with respect, right. And there is an example coming from Ramayana when Ravana was dying and towards the end of his life, Ram asked Lakshman, go and take some niti from Ravana. Lakshman goes and stands towards his head and asks Ravana to narrate some kind of niti. Ravana did not speak a word. So, Lord Ram's Lakshman came back to Ram and said that he is not speaking anything. So, Ram asked, where did you stand? He says, I was standing towards his head. He says that he is the one should be respected and therefore he should stand by his feet. And when Lakshman revisits Ravana and asks for niti, Ravana expresses all kinds of niti explains all kind of niti to Lakshman. So, that means you see that through this example that Ram has immense respect for his enemies as well, that is Ravana at the same time. So, if you look at this particular sloka, this is embodied in that Satyamev Nishansya cha Rajavrit Sanatanam Tasmat Satyamakam Rajyam Satya Loka Pratishtiti. That means the eternal ideals of rulers are truth and non-violence. Thus, a kingdom is founded on truth. The truth of this universe has been thoroughly proven. Right. So, if you look at Ramarajya, which is completely based on truth and non-violence, but that despite the fact that this kingdom is based on non-violence, non-violence cannot be completely ruled out if the peace and truth of the state is completely, if they are being compromised, right. So, if you look at the truth of this universe, it has been thoroughly proven in this particular case of Lord Ram. Ram has also been presenting the model of ethical and servant leadership in this particular text called Ramayana, because if you look at Ram's case, servant leadership is being presented because this particular leadership always focuses on the idea of growth. Because if you look at Ram's case, he has multiple examples in this text of Ramayana where he has been helping his allies to grow, and the best example comes from Vibhishan and Sugriv, right. You know that Ram has helped Sugriv to reclaim his state, right, and Vibhishan has also been helped by Lord Ram in reclaiming his state. We know that Ram was all powerful. If he wanted, he could have taken Lanka instead of giving it to Vibhishan, but he never did that. He made sure that his allies grow along with him, right, and he is the one who has been leading with humility and selflessness. He always considers protecting others as his duty. That's why he has been prioritizing welfare of the people over any kind of personal comfort and personal growth. He accepts exile to honor his father's promise, right. So, we have know that he has been making himself suffer while others have always been placed above his personal gain. If you look at this shloka, Tadvarsham mayakar mishanam paripalanam anuktena vivedehi pratigyayatu kimpuna. That means he has been always thinking that his duty is to protect the sages. So, he says that I have always already made a vow that I am going to protect the sages. It is my duty to ensure their protection, and there is no point in talking about the kind of commitment that I have already made. So, that means it is my foremost responsibility to protect each and every citizen of my state. This is my first and foremost duty, right. And again he says, Soham pitunirdesham tu kimarth nanupale satya pratishva satyam satyen samikrita. That means I consistently uphold whatever promises I make. I am obliged to the concept of truth. What are the reasons for me to defy my father's directive at this moment, right. So, when this decision of Lord Ram's Vanvasa has been taken, he always accepts it. He says that there is no point to defy my father's directive at this moment. I am going to accept what my father has always said. So, here he has been accepting the exile to honor his father's promise. So, he is always making sure that his father is in a comfortable position, that he dies with this particular honor in his mind, that his sons have always obeyed him, right. So, this is a kind of servant leadership model that has been presented by Lord Ram in Ramayana. Lord Ram has also been presenting some kind of transactional and transformational leadership model. That is, the transactional leadership model is completely based on the idea of give and take approach. This is evident in the alliance between Ram and Sugriv, where Ram helped Sugriv to regain his kingdom from Bali, and in return Sugriv supports him in the search for Sita. However, this transactional leadership has limitations, as it focuses mainly on rewards and task completions rather than inspirations, building relationships and long-term development. But in case of transactional leadership between Ram and Sugriv, this has overcome the narrow limitations of rewards and task completions, but Ram has made sure that the alliance between Ram and Sugriv is lifelong and long living. In Ramayana, leadership also goes beyond this particular model, as we have already said. Ram not only uses transactional strategy when necessary, but also shows transformational leadership by inspiring, motivating and driving positive changes in others, right. So, it is not what you call a narrow understanding as we understand it in present transactional. This is not a very transactive, rather it is a very long term relationship that is built between Sugriv and Lord Ram. So, that means if the kind of insight that we are borrowing from this relationship between Sugriv and Ram is that even if your a relationship is built for a particular purpose, let it not be confined to that particular purpose and task only, but try to make your relationship live longer and be more solid forever. Right? This is precisely what is being presented. Now, Ram guides Sugriv to regain confidence, fulfill his duties as a king, and leads his people effectively. So, you look at how Sugriv is completely being transformed. In the beginning, when Sugriv meets Ram, he was living on a mountain called Kishkindha and have been living almost a very secluded life, right. And after meeting Sugriva, how Ram has completely transformed him and how he has regained confidence, and he became king and started leading his people effectively and ethically. So, we have examples where Lord Ram has completely transformed his allies, particularly Sugriv we have seen in this case. He also inspires individuals like Hanuman and Angad to exceed expectations and act with dedication and purpose, right. And probably if you look at Lord Ram and the kind of veneration of Lord Ram we see in contemporary times, probably gets a lot of inspiration from Lord Ram itself. So, transformational leadership models that emerge from Ramayana is not only confined to Sugriv and Hanuman. We also see that this transformational leadership model may be extended to analyze the relationship between Lord Ram and his brother Bharat, because he is the one who motivates Bharat to take responsibility by ruling the kingdom in his absence, by guiding him to uphold dharma and serve the people selflessly. We know that when Lord Ram has left for jungle, Bharat has denied to rule the what you call Ayodhya, because he thought that Lord Ram is a rightful heir of Ayodhya and he should not be doing that. And Lord Ram, despite knowing this particular fact that he is a rightful heir of Ayodhya, has always followed the dictate of his father. Right? So, he has the one who has inspired, he has transformed and motivated Bharat to take this responsibility by ruling the kingdom in his absence. So, he says, Agata tvammiya buddhi swaja vainiki chaya vrashamutsahese tat rakshitum prithvimapi. O my dear brother, you are very much competent to rule the earth by the intellect you obtained from inherently and by training. So, you see that how he has invested and believed in the what you called efficiency and competence of Bharat, and he motivates him to take the responsibility of leading the kingdom. So, this is a very powerful example that comes from what you call the transformational leadership between Lord Ram and Bharat. We also have an example of Vibhishan, who has left his brother Ravana to join Ram in the pursuit of righteousness, dharma. And you know that how he has been transformed. Transformation is not driven by reward, but by Ram's values, integrity and vision. So, this transformation of Vibhishan that we have seen after he meets Ram is coming from Rama's values and integrity and vision that is inherent in his leadership. We also say that Lord Ram has been presenting a very democratic model of leadership, while Ravana has been being employed as a model of autocratic leadership. Right? We know that throughout the epic we find Lord Ram has been following a very democratic leadership model. He has been always consulting his advisors, his allies and his army before making any kind of major decisions. He involves initially his siblings and later on his lieutenants in all his decision making process. Right? So, every kind of decision that Lord Ram takes, he has always been consulting the teammates. He encourages discussion and teamwork and does not impose his decision on others due to authority or power. And therefore, he builds unity among diverse groups. Right? We have, if you look at Lord Ram's Sena, we have people, we have Vanaras, we have many other people coming from different parts of the world, and they are being united by Lord Ram through councils, through a democratic model that has been represented. This is reflected in his guidance that Ram provides to Bharat on governing the kingdom during his absence. When Bharat came to meet Lord Ram in jungle, Lord Ram provides certain kind of guidance. Atmyatish, suhardrish, buddhimatish, mantribhi, sarvkaryane samantre sumhananti karye. That means you should take counsel from your ministers, discuss with ministers any kind of discussion, that any kind of decision that you are going to take. You should always discuss it with your companions, intelligent counselors, and get all activities done even if they are gigantic in nature, right. So, he has been counseling his brother Bharat that you should always be democratic in your attitude while ruling the state. Now, we also say that upon hearing Ram's statement, the Vanaras offered valuable advice and politely expressed their views, stressing the need for surveillance. Right? We have an example where he has been consulting the army men of his in order to make certain decisions, and where everyone offered valuable advices and politely expressed their views. So, Lord Ram have always allowed his teammates, his allies and his companions to participate in discussion and makes decision very collectively. So, Ram's leadership may be contrasted with that of Ravana, who has very disregard for any kind of advice. You look at when Vibhishan had tried to advise him, and any of his ministers tried to advise him to return Sita to Lord Ram and stop any kind of war. Or when even Mandodari, his wife, advises Ravan to return Sita and establish peace between you and Rama, Ravana and Rama, he has never listened to Mandodari. Right. So, his decisions have always been, Ravana's decisions have always been very unilateral decisions, and thus he has always led through power and authority. And therefore, Ravana seems to be a complete example of what you call an autocratic leadership, right, and that has been represented by Ravana, showing how excessive control and ego can lead to a leader's downfall, right. So, in fact, the entire text of Lord Ramayana seems to be a kind of a critique of autocratic leadership of Ravana, who has been making all kinds of decisions in a unilateral manner and has been always performing through the position of power and authority. While on the other side, Lord Ram's leadership model is being presented as a model of servant leadership, transactional and transformational leadership, and also a kind of leadership who has been presented as servant leadership, where he has been placing he has not been only considering the decisions, the opinions of others, but he has always been placing the welfare and well-being of the subject first and then his. And that is why probably even in today's times we always refer to Ram Rajya as has been the best model of leadership which has ever been considered. So, we have clearly seen that in Indian knowledge system, particularly in the texts like Mahabharata and Ramayana, we have a very effective and very rich tapestry of leadership models that exist, and the modern leadership may be taking insights from the models that have been presented in Indian ancient texts like Mahabharata and Ramayana. They can be employed in order to manage and collaborate and make your team effective and make and take care of each and every teammate. Thank you for listening carefully. If you have any doubts, questions and queries, kindly let me know. Thank you.